Hi, good morning, everyone. Just wanted to start off by thanking the team for putting this together for all of us to enjoy this morning. I'm Paul Antunes, founder and CEO of Texera. Today, we'll be discussing and sharing with you our B2P journey in meeting global tax and localization needs, what we do, what we don't do, and more importantly, for this forum, really how we've leveraged B2P platform to create a global SaaS platform inside the SAP ecosystem. In terms of Taxera and what we do, we are a global tax firm. Um, for those of you on the call before, you may have seen Renan sharing the SAP ACR and document compliance. We do that, a few more things, but it's the approach that's fundamentally different. We are 100% cloud-based, and the approach is really to lower the cost of compliance and to do really rapid deployments from implementations in countries such as Mexico and Italy that currently can take months and months. We do this in weeks, and really this has been enabled by the BTP technology platform. We're an SAP partner company. So yes, we are in competition with SAP, but at the same time, it makes the ecosystem grow and we work very closely with SAP. So just to set the stage a little bit about the current status of tax and compliance around the world. For those involved in SAP projects, you know very well that this is a pain point. Governments are constantly changing legislation. For those of you who have been involved in Brazil, you know that is a nightmare scenario. You have Mexico, you have Italy, and things are not moving any slower. This is only going to get more aggressive over the years. Companies will have to spend more and more money. I just read an EY study yesterday that on average, multinationals over 5 years, each one is spending 13 million to stay compliant. And it's very difficult to stay compliant in Brazil, in Mexico, in Guatemala, in Italy. France and Germany are moving to e-invoicing. And Taxera with BTP is providing a global tax platform to meet all these requirements. And how do we do that? Really, what we've done is build a total end-to-end technology platform on BTP using products which I'll share with you in a second, such as CPI, SAC, the portal, and so on. So we've used all these SAP products to build our platform, and this is where the value comes from. The approach is also very different. We don't sell licenses. We build the entire solution end to end. We build the integration back into an S4 system or EC system or non-SAP systems do. We have clients that are running Oracle, NetSuite, Sage, and so on. And we build the integration all the way to the tax authorities too. So the approach is to, with BTP, to go to a client and sell the total solution end to end so that it's been pre-integrated back to their system. It's been pre-integrated to the tax authorities. And then the approach is to really look at the gaps between the client system and Taxera and then do a very rapid rollout. And in terms of coverage, it's everything from e-invoicing, real-time, near real-time, what we call smart data reconciliations. We have what I would like to think are incredible reconciliation tools that reconciles not only the data between Taxera and the client systems, but between your financial statements, your VAT returns, your e-invoicing in a matter of seconds. And this whole holistic approach to compliance and tax is the difference to Taxera. And that has all been enabled by the B2P platform. So our technical architecture really is that middle layer that you can see in front of you. We use the BTP Cloud Foundry ABAP environment. Everything's been created by Taxera. And then we plug these tools from SAP, such as CPI for integration, SAC for analytics, UI5 for an incredible user experience, and of course the portal and IaaS to bring that wrapper around, ensure we have a great security, and then we use other services such as Adobe and so on to just really enrich the user experience. So, in terms of the BPT journey for Taxera was quite a difficult journey. We started this a couple of years ago when the platform was really, we would call it almost immature. And our negotiations and discussions with SAP were really around establishing a great cloud framework. We wanted to know, is this the way to go? We had a choice. We could go to various other platforms, and we had multiple discussions with SAP that this was the correct framework. We then had the choice around Neo, Cloud Foundry, and different platforms. And this took us kind of months to establish which choice to make. Should we go with Neo, as you know, is more kind of SAC specific. In the end, we opted to go with Cloud Foundry. We started a trial account, and that in itself was not very good 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Now it's a little bit better. You can have a 1-year trial account, you can do development, but it was kind of restrictive in those days. And my advice to anybody wanting to start on the platform: make sure you have the right account, make sure you can do what you need to do, and have a chat with SAP. They're very, very open to all these discussions, and then make sure that you have the restrictions. You understand the restrictions of the platform before and after. And then the last step that I would say that has been a great learning curve for us is also the licensing component. SAP has at various times changed the model, introduced new models. Sometimes, one model could be available on Neo and the other model is not available on Cloud Foundry, and so forth. So if you are starting out on B2P, take your time, discuss this with SAP, and understand the restrictions and what can and can't be done with your licensing model. And in terms of that model itself, you have what they call the Cpa model, and this is basically a master agreement. In the end, is what we went for. It tends to be a little bit more expensive, but it does give you a lot greater coverage. The subscription model is kind of exactly what it is. You subscribe and you pay an upfront fee, and you consume down from that fee, and the pay as you go, you kind of pay on a monthly basis. And that I would say that going from left to right, the Cpa model is the least restrictive. The subscription, it's almost like a credit model. You get a little bit more, and the pay as you go has got more restrictions. So, look at your use case, look how you want to leverage the platform, and then also do your maths in terms of the consumption cost. It is not a cheap platform. If you're setting up multiple sub accounts and then you start to put a lot of data through, which, for example, in our case can be extensive. You negotiate with SAP. They're quite negotiable in all of these. We have a client, for example, today, a very large electrical company in Eastern Europe that have got 4 divisions, which I'll actually show the architecture in a few minutes. And there's a huge amount of data flowing through the system. And that is one of the advantages of B2P for us, is that we're able to scale. We can choose the hyperscaler, the provider, whether we want to use Amazon or Google or any of those. You have that choice within B2P. You're not restricted to a single provider. And in fact, some companies have said to us, for example, one German company, that they do not want to use Amazon for whatever reason. So you can quickly, within your sub account for that client, for us anyway, we're able to choose a different provider. So that is, again, a very flexible model within B2P that you can leverage for your purposes. So let me just swing across. I think most of you know B2P already, but this is the Taxera, an example, one of our accounts. It's not our live system, but what we have in here is where we do a lot of our development. We use enterprise messaging as well for real-time exchanges with S4 and ECC systems. And for those new to BTP, you can see that. Sorry, let me just refresh my browser. Okay. Oh, that's coming up again. Having a look at our B2P environments, our sub-accounts. One of the important things that we like to see is that we're able to see exactly all the environments that we have, all the services that we activate, and I'll cover that a little bit more. You can see here, clearly we're running a Cloud Foundry ABAP environment. And again, here from a service plan perspective, this is one of our smaller systems. We're just running a 16 gigabyte. And again, you can if you're having a CPA contract, you can easily ramp this up with SAP as your demands become greater. The other aspect of the platform is that the service marketplace is very interesting, and this is recently we actually added a document management system. A client asked us, we don't run a document management system. We didn't have that functionality, and it was simply a case of looking at the service at SAP do offer something, and then we simply activate that service. And for example, here I wanted to show you this. We're in the process of activating Adobe Forms for this account, and it would be as simple as creating that service, subscribing to that service, and then you're able to merely select the plan that you want. Let's say, in case I'll stand here, the standard service, and it means now you'd be able to, once you select your instance name, you would activate this, you go to next, you go through the parameters of review, and now you've got Adobe Forms and the full functionality within the environment. And this has been very powerful for Taxera. We've been able to have this functionality and this capabilities that now allow us to compete with much, much larger companies by having this subscription type approach of being able to activate functionality, which SAP is adding new services almost on a monthly basis that we can then leverage to make our platform a lot richer. And this has been a key feature for us in leveraging B2P. The other key feature is bolting on things such as CPI, for example. I'll give you another example how we do it here. We are actually running a separate sub-account, and this is kind of our playground system. We're running CPI in a different system. We merely switch the global account to another sub-account, and then you can see our CPI instance here. So by having this kind of almost menu shopping, you go into a restaurant and what you want to buy, you then have this really ability to scale up, scale down. And for small startups or medium-sized companies, this is, I think, is one of the great values of the B2B platform that SAP is rolling out. The shopping of the service is really easy, as you saw earlier on. We can just roll down into the service marketplace. And then, of course, the control of the spaces, basically your environments, the control of who can see it. You can establish quota in terms of consumption. How much do I want to spend? How much don't I want to spend? And so on. I think one item that we have struggled with, is really the security concept with B2P. With B2P, I'd probably say it's not the strongest part of B2P. I think there's been a tremendous improvement, but it's still not easy to manage in terms of you have to create users in the launch pad, you have to create employees, and then you have to go through an extensive security mechanism. So I think an area of improvement is the licensing, of course. I think it's a tough negotiation with SAP. And secondly, the user management from a security aspect, it's very good, it's very strong, but it's not a great user experience in terms of being able to manage that. I'll just go back to the presentation and then kind of go back to how Taxera's leverage B2B. Is that we've built a global client platform, a single global clients compliance platform. One of our key differences, again, we don't add any code to the client system. We're able to, with a combination of BTP and the other services from the SAP ecosystem, CPI, CDS views, the APIs, and so on, to really provide a compliance application, a platform that allows us to connect to any system, whether it be SAP, or S4 or ECC, or non-SAP system, to connect to these systems and be able to provide a multinational that is very often having multiple environments and that aren't all SAP, a single tax compliance platform. And that is a very powerful proposition for the B2P environment. The integration is another powerful aspect. And one thing that we're working very closely with SAP, this is something quite I wouldn't say radical, but innovative to the B2B platform. We're one of the first companies in the world is to develop the SaaS model. So you kind of have the functional aspect where you're meeting the requirements of the legislation, whether it be in South America or in Europe or in Asia. So that's the functional aspect. And the second aspect is that this can be deployed in a SaaS model, a true SaaS model. And that is very important, not only for us, but for our customers too, because having the SaaS model allows us to really compete not only in functionality, but in pricing. As we develop these applications and we develop ones for countries or for global solutions, as we roll out this application, it allows us to lower our costs, given that we're then able to leverage exactly the same code across the world, irrespective of the client. So that is it means that you sell the same software over and over. It becomes very cost effective, and we can pass those savings down to our clients. And the last part of this of the slides really is SAP is really investing tremendously in BTP. It's I think it's one of the platforms for the future. We've really taken a big bet on it. We believe in thoroughly in SAP B2P. We think we work very closely with SAP, the BTP team, the steampunk team. So we're very excited about the future of the platform, and we think this is where SAP will go in the future. So let me just switch across. I'll give you a little bit of a tour, a very rapid tour of Taxera. It's been logging me out, so let me just log you. Go back in there. Okay, this is the classic launch pad. You know, we normally provide a portal for our clients, but for the sake of this demo, I just wanted to show you a little bit in more detail the apps. But normally what the clients will get is really a portal. And looking at the global invoicing, for those of you who are involved in that space in terms of providing data in real time to tax authorities, and the whole user experience built on Fiori. So it's a very, very nice user experience. There's no more clunky GUI and GUI XT and so on. So the user on a global scale, whether they're working in South America or in Europe or in Asia, they experience the same user experience. And in fact, whether they're working on SAP, ECC or S4, when we integrate the data, and it's true integration, this is not downloading and manipulating the data. It comes into Taxera, and Taxera with our business rules engine transforms the data automatically. In this case, we're talking about Spanish SII. That data has been extracted or submitted. The users can work anywhere in the world, and they all have the same user experience. This is very important, that there's a consistent user experience. For the user, the functionalities here to view documents if they want, to drill down into documents. They can see, who did the transaction, when it was extracted. So full audit trails coming across through the B2B platform. Very nice look and feel in terms of the capabilities that have been provided in terms of filtering and the management of the screens. For example, if a user wants to drag certain of these fields across, they just pick and drop and select their functionality. So this is all coming through the B2P platform in terms of a framework, of course, fully built. These are all custom solutions built by Taxera for our clients, downloading capabilities again, and so on and so on. And what's also important, just to show you in terms of the power of B2P and how we built our platform, is you have a lot of capabilities in terms of the cockpit and analytics. We have a full reconciliation where we allow companies to reconcile data in real time. Monthly reconciliations, we're able to, for example, for Spanish SII, let me give you a quick example there. We are able to run it for Taxera Spain. We then execute this, and we build cockpits where all the data is available for all our customers. So if I select Spain, for example, let me just go down here. A user would then again be simply able to see everything that's been done for reconciliations for that company code for that fiscal year. So they have a single cockpit in which they would then be able to review their data. So this is all the transactions that have taken place. And if they wanted to execute a new reconciliation, they would just simply select on the new button and fill in the parameters and go through that. And this has all been powered by B2P. And then going on to the rest of the platform, we're talking about VAT submissions. This is VAT return. Again, it's from a global perspective. We meet the requirements of creating VAT returns for most countries in the world. We're working with SAP in terms of adding new forms. And then, last but not least, for those involved in this space, is again what we call the SAFTI reporting. This is something new that we've just developed. Again, you can select the country and so on. And we're using the wizard functionality provided by the B2P. A user would simply create a SAFTI submission. They would select the country. I've selected Romania because this is something that's kind of hot on the agenda right now. They would select the company code involved, the date range, and from a user experience, you can see the consistency in the platform. And we go through this wizard process in terms of a fast step process to do what's actually a very heavy process in terms of extracting data, transforming it, and generating the XML file. And all of this is actually done on the B2P platform with CPI and all the SAP tools that are available for companies to build their platforms for their companies. I guess from a Taxera perspective, I think most of the use cases today for B2P are really end user companies. We've decided to use it from a kind of client perspective with a full SaaS, what's called the SaaS template, so that we have the functionality and at the same time we have a global SaaS template. And that's quite an intensive platform to build because it is not single functionality. As you can see, it's a very large platform for multinationals to use. And I'd also be happy, although I wasn't planning to, be making progress on time here, to show you a little bit about how we manage the backend, because we don't put any configuration on the client side. Everything's done in the Taxera backend. These are the applications that are available to our technical team, our functional team, to then do global settings for a customer, to change the configuration setting at the country level. If you, for example, need to meet the requirements of SII, not every customer operates in their system exactly the same, whether it be ECC or S4. But it means that we can extract this data out in real time or near real time. We then don't need to change anything on the client system, whether it be tax mapping, as you can see here, or any extraction sources, or the selection of the API, or which fields we need to extract. This is all done in the backend. And using BTP, what's allowed us to do is to actually have a very strategic approach to global compliance of having zero code on the client side. We do need to sometimes activate APIs or CDS views on the client side, but there's no Z code and there's no user exits. There's nothing like that. It is really built all from inside BTP. And I think that really makes it a lot easier for us and for the clients in staying compliant globally. As legislation changes, we update our B2P platform, we update Taxera, we pass that benefit onto the client, and the client no longer has to worry about changing the ECC system or the S4 system. Taxera takes care of that in our B2P platform, and then we roll that functionality out as a SaaS offering to our clients. And just to kind of, as we get off to the last 7 minutes, I'll go back to the final slide. This is a client, a very large client that we just engaged in the last few weeks. They were looking at a platform, a global compliance platform. They looked at, ACR, e-document compliance, and the usual culprits out there, including Taxera. And we were lucky to be chosen. One of the things that you can see is that clients very often have a very complex architecture. This client has four very large divisions. This is a multi-billion client. In one division, number one, they're operating 3 ECC systems. In a division number 2, an S4 system. In division number 3, an ECC system, which in fact at a different patch level to to division number 1. And then division number 4, also an S4 system, the same as division 2, but yet again, they were not exactly on the same version of S4. And if you're doing classic, ABAP add-ons to your system or to your group, or you're doing kind of on-premise systems, if you'd have to have 6 rollouts and 6 implementations and 6 add-ons across all these different landscapes in the different systems. And then when these EC systems are going to S4, you now have to upgrade that whole kind of add-on whether it be e-document compliance or ACR or all these other kind of solutions out there with ABAP code that are inserted into the platform. With an approach with something like BTP, we're simply by using API, have mapped and connected Taxera to these different systems. Of course, each one, especially the EC systems, will have a different connective mechanisms to the S4. The APIs are non-existent or not as good, so we tend to use a mix of BAPIs and other tools. On S4, then there's a lot of more modern tools to connect, so we can connect already that to an API system. But it does mean from an integration perspective, we're able to take this group of companies that are very, very different and operate very, very different and have a single solution globally to meet the tax compliance. So the user experience is exactly the same. We're using an ECC system with the processes to meet the e-invoicing needs or the reconciliations or the VAT returns, all the analytics, all that stays the same, whether you're an ECC client or an S4 client or an Oracle client. And this is kind of a very attractive proposition that's been enabled for Taxera through BTP and other tools. And the other thing is that there's no redundancy. As a client moves from ECC, they will move to, for example, to S4. There will, of course, be some changes in the integration layer and some changes in the connectivity mechanisms. But in terms of the user experience, the training, the investments that be made in the company in using Taxera, that won't change at all, whether you're using ECC or S4. So there's a little bit of a re-implementation as companies move, for example, from ECC to S4. But in terms of large investment that companies do in terms of training and change management and the whole concept, it becomes almost zero. The user doesn't know that now Taxera is now connected to a new S4 system or an Oracle system that carry on their daily jobs and as such. So I think we've got 3 minutes left. I hope I've covered everything that you wanted to know about B2P. And I wanted to also give a big thanks to the organizers for having Taxera and myself on here. And I'm happy to answer any questions. If there's no questions, please reach out to us or to anyone for further help. So I'll hand back to the team.
Sorry, Paul. You have, because after your session we will have a break. You have time to you
Okay.
don't need to be so close to your end time. So
Sure. Look, I think I'm okay. I mean, I think I could just go a little bit more through our back end just to give people an idea that that what is possible and what you can build is extensive applications to manage a back end. This is especially important for end user companies. If you are building large products on B2B, it is very possible. You have to take extensive design decisions that we've had to do, that we do something very unique to Taxera. For example, we hold very little data in our system. That is by design, and also to enhance the security mechanism, because when you're talking about having companies' entire transactional data on your system, master data, we've had to do some really radical things by design to ensure that we minimize risk to clients having their data on the cloud. Some people are still concerned, but it is very possible. So I would just advise that it's not only about the platform. Make sure you have very good design principles, and I think B2P has been a great facilitator for us. We're very happy with where we're going in the direction of the platform. And then in terms of the look and feel, I think if you look at what SAP was offering for those of us who've worked on ECC and the different patch levels and the GUI, you can see now that there's a huge radical improvement in the way you can view things and the way you can filter data and the entire platform. But these are custom design platforms, applications, and this is all Taxera's own IP. If you can have an accelerated process by using standard Fiori apps, which makes it much quicker in terms of deployment, but you don't have the flexibility in terms of designing the way we've done it. So I think, look at BTP. It's a great platform. SAP are great partners, and I think you're going to be able to do great things with a platform such as BTP. If you do have any compliance questions, if you're worried how to meet your global tax needs and the expense that comes with that, reach out to us. We'd be happy to chat you. I think that's it for me now. 40 minutes, perfectly on time, and thank you for having me.
You close the time perfect, Pau. Oh.
Okay. I have a timer next to me.
Yeah. Very,
Thanks.
very,
Thanks a
very
lot,
well.
Paul.
Thank you a
Thank
lot
you,
for your
guys.
time. Bonus session. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye bye.